Welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we are doing a long-awaited unboxing of Veiled Fate from Ivy Studios. This is actually their second game to arrive. Their first was Moonrakers that we actually had a raucous gameplay of earlier this week.
That was a lot of fun. I can't wait for that to go up.
Oh my gosh. And the next one is Mythic Mischief, which may be my favorite abstract of all time at the moment.
You are very high on it. It's great. It's great.
It's certainly competing for my top 10.
What are the... So, Talk is up there for you?
Talk is...
Shobu.
Yeah, there's a collection of abstracts that I absolutely love. But that is not this. This is Veiled Fate. Veiled Fate is going to be a... I always get in trouble for the... It's going to be a. No, it currently is. Currently is...
In its fulfilled state.
In its fulfilled state, a game all about controlling various different demigods, manipulating their machinations, and trying to make sure the one that you want in power, the one that you're favorable to, is the one that gets elected to the high throne. Now, one important note, one important fact we should mix in here is Devin Norris...
I have two different points of interest for this. Number one is not the conflict of interest or like extra connections. I don't know. I'm very excited about this. Number one, I don't know if you know this.
Devin wrote a giant lore compendium for Veiled Fate. So if you're unboxing your game, getting your hands on it, check out the email that they sent out giving you access to background lore for every single demigod, ending story scenarios for each one of the different victories that could happen, and story arc cards for every card that you resolve throughout the course of the gameplay, right?
Yeah, and in a shameless, selfish plug for myself, if you like the lore compendium and you like the idea of having quest text resolution and age and city card resolution, all that kind of stuff, and demigod backgrounds, and then resolutions for whoever wins as the demigod. If you like all that kind of stuff in complementariness to your game, then hopefully when they reach out, there's the potential for it to be like a coffee table book.
You have to affirm that you would like it, however.
Yes.
Is there a link, or do they
just comment in this video if you want the lore compendium to be a thing,
a real thing.
You want it to be a real copy, a hard copy that you can get. Comment in this video and we will send all that feedback Austin's way.
We'll also leave a link down below to the lore compendium so that anyone that wants to access it, take a look at it, they can hop on over and check it out. Because I believe it's an update in the Kickstarter page or something like that.
It's one of the Kickstarter updates where they give you the PDF Dropbox access. There's additional context for me that I don't know if you know about, based off the fact that you and I have been talking about Kickstarters a lot this weekend. This was the first Kickstarter I ever backed. Which is, it's like an extra special memory for me.
Did we influence that?
Quackalope?
Yeah. I'm curious, because we were 100% on coverage.
So I watched your coverage of it after I became aware of it. So I became aware of it because they were one of the first studios that I really noticed pushed like the digital social media marketing during this campaign.
They're so good at it. This campaign had an entire AI, like, choose your own adventure story with unlocks and hidden prizes just for free, for the audience, just to do. It's where a lot of your lore sourcing came from.
And so I saw social media posts about it and like advertisements, and I was like, man, that sounds super interesting. And I love social deduction games, but I feel like they have a lot of weaknesses to them, which I felt like this was working to correct. So this is like special for me. First Kickstarter ever backed, and first thing I was ever contributing lore to.
Now, one other note that I'm going to throw out there, because I think this is the deluxified version. I have one ordered that's full metal minis and everything like that. However, this one was pushed, and I don't know if they pushed my copy or they just got one into our hands based on what had arrived. But there is also wooden boards that a few of us ordered. Now, for those of you that are curious about the wooden board situation, it's a larger conversation, but basically, Ivy Studios got hard screwed over by the company that was designing and making the wooden boards. So they're actually out of pocket. I mean, losing money on every board they ship to people, are going out of their way to make sure that they get these into the hands. However, they will be arriving a little bit later. So I don't have the wooden components to show off, but I will have one down the road, and we'll show it off as soon as it arrives.
You did get the metal ones.
Oh, yes.
Wow, these look... Well, so... Actually, these look even better than the original, because originally, one of the pre-production copies that they got, the metal was a little too shiny for me, and this is actually I think maybe it's because it didn't have the contrast wash.
On it.
But man, these metal minis actually look fantastic.
Can I put one in my mouth?
Yeah, put one in your mouth.
Which color?
Put the yellow one in your mouth.
Okay,
that just seems to be thematically makes sense.
Wow. Delicious.
Good mouthfeel.
Wow. Amazing mouthfeel. Cool to the touch. I'm actually really loving the detail and the way that these are stylized. Yeah. These are so much nicer to use than the prototype copy that I had. That had the most delicate resin minis. And here's the fun part. Look at the little seal stamps on the bottom of each one of them.
Stamps.
It's awesome. These look fantastic.
They look really, really good.
And we have their little, the scoring pedestals are amazing as well.
Yeah, really chunky.
This just feels nice.
Denseness to it.
We have a little punch board here.
This makes me regret a little bit not getting the metal ones.
Yep, we have a little punch board here with our characters. I'm curious to see what they ended up doing with the inserts inside of here. So let's take a look here. This is insane.
Their production quality is next level.
Okay, we have our fate cards here. We have our different scenarios.
These are your fate cards for voting. These
the
are
way
your
is shut.
It's weird seeing all of these cards. Because I used all those cards to do all
the titles,
writing.
all the names, right?
All the writing. So.
Here's our little plastic markers for if you're going to be controlling them as standees.
I was trying to see if this had one of those things where it's like bent over at one point, but it wasn't.
And then here's the pretty thing. Insert's nice. Is it made by Game Trays? It is. Game Trays just makes some beautiful stuff, man.
They're killing it.
Here is the giant board. This sets the scene.
Which is set in a particular way.
It is set in a particular order, but like, I'm glad they didn't try to fold this board up or anything like that, because this is a commitment.
It would be a little bit too much of a.
So let's see here. It should all presumably be in order here. So that pops on. Moving on to the desert. Swinging on to valleys, forests, the river, and then the pools and the abyss. So, the core concept of this game is going to be you controlling all of these different demigods here on this giant map. And you're going to have various different events, which Devin is opening up now. So you'll be able to move them from one location to another location, trying to resolve and take challenges on different events, whether you're here in the center of the city or you're moving out to like the forests or the
quests are.
The hill, yeah. And in those locations, you're going to have these different tokens. These tokens, these pedestals, show where your hero's prominence is, but no one knows who you actually are or who you're working in favor of. So you might move blue to the outside and take control and give them great benefits, and people might immediately start saying like, oh.
Yeah, so you lock them in on the quests. Yeah. So all these quests, and you may not be able to see it from the front view. On the top view, you should be able to see kind of these outlines at these locations. And obviously, you don't have this many quests out necessarily at any particular time, but you go and you lock them onto quests, and once they're filled, then they resolve. And every time you place a demigod, you put one of your votes in of whether you want it to go on the feather side or the scorpion side.
And so you're blind voting, and people don't know if you're adding big prominence to it or trying to screw someone over, because each side, scorpion and feather, will have positive and negative effects depending on who's in which position.
Yeah. So for example, if this character, if I think this is Sagari, if it resolved on feathers, she would get a negative renown. So if she was, here, she'd drop to there in terms of her points.
And the object of the game is to have your hidden leader, the person you're prolifically tied to be the highest on this track by the end of, I think, is it 3 ages? What is it?
3 ages, yeah. So, 3 ages is full game. Well, no. Yeah.
I'd have to check.
I think it's 3 ages. Now I'm doubting myself.
Adorable little rulebook. Veiled Fate is a hidden influence game for 2 to 8 players. Play as a divine being,
3 ages.
sired a demigod to the realm of men. The identity of your lineage is known only to you. Use positional play to complete quests and influence fate to ensure the outcomes in your favor. Strike the perfect balance of misdirection and mischief to capture the throne. sweet. The artwork's beautiful.
Yeah. So typically how a lot of games work is if you're doing, you know, quest completion and moving around the board, you're controlling one character. But in Veiled Fate, you control all of the demigods, and you can move. You can never touch the one that you actively control.
Just let them ride their way to
other
victory.
people, you know, control them and use them. Or you can actively, like, oh, there's a 2-point quest here. If it goes the way of feathers, I want to put them on that quest. And so it's always a matter of...
But if someone catches on to who you are too early into the game, well, you go to this 2-point quest down here, and they can stack the deck, drop in a bunch of scorpions,
and make it go negative for you. Or they could do powers that send people to the abyss, or they can make sure that they move the character off to a place where they're never able to effectively get to the quests that are the most valuable. So it's always this kind of push and pull of how much do you actively like use the person that you are, and how much do you try to obfuscate your plans from the rest of the players. And it's just, it's really fun because, you know, I played it at 4 players, but, you know, you can play this at 2 players, you can play this at 8 players. I think Austin's favorite player counts, he said, are 2 and 7, which is just not something you hear for games, period. Like the idea that, this works really well at 2, this works really well at 7. But I can see it because, you know, there's 9 demigods.
Sure.
And at 7 players, you have 2 that are still not known.
And everyone's in.
But everybody else, the likelihood of you improving the odds of somebody else is so much higher than like at 2-player, you're trying to hide amongst all of the demigods, and like the odds are if you help some other demigod, it's not your opponents. But at the other player count on the other end, you're always helping someone, and so you kind of have to balance it out. Like if you're not yellow, you can't keep helping yellow because the odds are it's one of the other players at the table.
I think we're hoping to get at least a 2-player head-to-head with me and you.
I think so, yeah.
While you're here.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
So, outside of this, outside of opening up, I mean, we have our quest cards down here. We have our fate cards. Show off some of those little fate cards there. And then we have these city cards.
Yeah.
Each one of these are going to be different, like, story cycles or elements.
So these are the quests that some of them require no particular person on the space. Some of them require a particular class of person, and then at other times it requires. Let me go further in. Where is it? Here it is. Some of them require a specific person, not just a class or nobody. It requires one character has to go there in order to do that.
We're going to do probably a larger conversation on lore writing, how you integrate the book, stuff like that, right? But I'm curious, opening this and looking through it, is there any one particular story, event card, like piece of lore from the world that you were the most kind of excited about, that you had the most fun establishing?
I mean, it was definitely fun creating, like, character identities for each of these demigods. It was a lot of fun identifying who they were, what their persona was, what their intent was in the world, like as they were trying to succeed the throne of Eridan. There's a whole, I enjoyed creating the backstory for Eridan, but also just creating little moments that each demigod could be the like active participant of for the quests. So I think the quests were the most fun because they were a little bit of a puzzle. Because if it, to make it make sense, you know, like for example, using Festival of Bows, this space has to make sense for all 3 of the agility demigods. And this one has to make sense for all 3 of the strength demigods. And then these 2 has to be anybody. So it's kind of like a little bit of like narrative puzzle play because you're trying to make a story that's interesting or an action that you can like feel and envision.
Is there one though that comes to mind that you were like, this was a fun one to, like when I finished this one, I was like, this will be cool for someone to experience?
I think it was, let me see if I can find it here.
The title of it? I'm under Delta now.
Close the Rift, I think.
Okay.
So Close the Rift was one where I essentially had like an earthquake happen and a massive fissure erupt into the earth. And so in this scenario, there was like an intelligent person that was like, hey, we have to do this. But the way that the quests work is you have to give essentially like an A or B because you have to have the feather and you have to have the scorpion resolution. So this was like the wise individual, the wise demigod, had a plan for how to close the rift, and they were trying to be intelligent about it. But in this, they like floundered, and like their arrogance kind of brought them down. Sure. And then in this, like their plan was able to effectively like kind of halt the destruction before it went underway. And then in this one, you know, like, and they also, like, the good and the bad happen on different sides sometimes. So in this one, it was like the strength character, the strength demigod. They essentially, like, dug down deep into the roots of the earth and, like, pulled the fissure shut. And, like, because you get 2 points right there. Yeah. So that's a lot. So it's got to be some, you know, substantial event that happens. And then the other one is, like, you know, they were trying to evacuate people out of like the lower levels of who had fallen down into the rift, and he was caught by the rising magma as he was trying to like climb out, like, you know, magma from the earth's core, whatever came up. And then this one was, someone was fast. So I had like a boy who was like trapped on a ledge down below, and like, you know, like lava was rising, and like or the rift was closing or whatever, and so the fast individual, like the agile demigod, had to go down and save the boy. But this is a coin flip, and so I don't know where it is. It should be here. It is.
Yep.
So like there are times when you don't know what the result is going to be, and if you have the
narrative
flipped
has to
coin,
accommodate for both of that as well.
you have to have a chance. And so I left that with an ellipsis, and essentially the players get to finish it. So anytime there's a coin flip, the players get to kind of narratively fill in what happens, because you go, okay, you know, feathers, so it was good. So that, like, you know, he was able to get the boy to safety, and, you know, like they were able to, you know, secure that. And then on the other one, it had a permanently good result. So it was a lot of fun creating those, and those took the most amount of time as well, because there's 36 quests. So I had to do 36 different quests and then write out different results across all of them, and sometimes particular to certain demigods or certain types of demigods. That's
cool that it was the first Kickstarter you ever backed.
And I got to work on it.
You got to be a part of it.
Yeah, like that was so cool to me.
Yeah.
So it was really special. So like this game just like, I don't know, it will never leave my collection, because it's like it's the first one I ever backed. I got to work on it, and you know, it's something special.
Cool. I think that's an unboxing. I mean, we're going to do close-ups and B-roll and stuff, so they've already seen like the details of the minis. I think the production quality on this looks fantastic.
It's insane. It's insane.
It's absolutely lovely. But Ivy Studios does this. I mean, this is, even their prototypes historically have been some of the best that I've ever came across. Like the game that we have downstairs, I have a prototype copy of Veiled Fate still.
Yeah.
It is a functional game.
Well, I mean, I think they even do like you can tell certain quality of different types of cardboard, which is something that most people won't care about. But they use like Blackcore, which, you know, from the side you can see kind of like that black part, like that's the cardboard. It's denser, and it looks really good. Their cards
feel great.
Yeah, their cards feel great, and so I think they might have even done the black core on the prototype. I can't remember.
They might have.
But they kind of go to the next level for stuff.
Ridiculous. All right, thank you for watching. Hopefully you're excited. I know if you're tuning into this, you're excited because you have your own copy on the way.
I can't wait.
We have one in hand.
I'm hoping mine's home when
we're going to be doing some gameplay here in just a bit, but we wanted to open it up and show it off. With that, goodbye.
Goodbye.
And good luck.